You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales, streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
A colon is a punctuation mark consisting of two equally sized dots aligned vertically. A colon often precedes an explanation, a list, a quoted sentence. It is also used between hours, minutes, and time, between certain elements on medical journal citations, between chapter and verse and Bible citations, and in the U.S. for salutations and business letters and other formal writing. Or, if you have a comic book title that's entirely too long, but you want to somehow make it longer, as is the case this week. This is in stores this week, where we talk about new books that are in stores this week, particularly books with a colon in the title this week. So I thought I would read the definition of a colon because, you know, sometimes your colon can be a real asshole. Hey-o!
I like how you start our final show with a colonoscopy there.
Thank you, Dan. Colonoscopy. Oh, that's a good one. Welcome into In Stores this week, everybody. I'm producer Kyle. That's Jay and Dan. And as John has alluded to, this is the last episode, at least of this format of In Stores this week. Starting next week, In Stores this week will be merged with Minute to Skim It, and will premiere live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and Twitter at midnight Eastern, Tuesday nights. It will be live over on the Space Cadets page at 7 o'clock Eastern, but it will debut on our YouTube page at midnight. You can watch it whenever you want, though. It will be part of our new pre-recorded, uploadable content that we're doing. The books aren't going anywhere. We're still going to be reading books, and maybe even more books, but this little configuration is going away. It's a sad day.
So tell me the truth. This is all about you not wanting to correct the typo on the opening thing, huh?
It literally has nothing to do with that. It has everything to do with I need to be reading less stuff every week. But in the interim, some of people are already throwing it up in the comments. If you're here, hashtag EXP2K in the comments to get entered for our slab giveaway, which we'll be doing at the end of the show. No, I'm not going to tell you what slab it is until the end of the show. But if you want to win the slab, you have to do two things. Put hashtag EXP2K in the comments, and you have to be here at the end of the show so that you can get the information to fill out the form. So,
Jay, is it just me or does his mic sound weird?
He clipped a little bit, but it kind of corrected for me.
Okay. Sounds a little tin canny to me.
Please hold. Better now? No?
About the same.
Then there ain't nothing I can do right now.
Okay.
All right, let's get into it, though. And we'll start with Dwellings #1 from Oni Press. I guess I will start.
Yeah.
I have no idea what the hell this title has to do with what happens in the book. Like, to be real honest, if you had called this book, This Will Make You Uncomfortable, it would have been a more accurate title. Because you see this kind of art and you think it's going to be a humor book. It is, in fact, not a humor book. It is very much a super dark, but still very cartoony story about a psychopath. So I felt it felt very relatable.
This is Richie Rich's House of Horrors, as written by Guillermo del Toro.
Ooh, that's a good answer.
Yeah, there is some very. Do not accidentally give this to your kids. Don't leave this at the dentist's office, on the little side table, or do if that's your thing. Uh, but it is a unique book, and I was surprised when we got it because we haven't been getting a lot of stuff from Oni, but that came in. I'm like, oh, this comes out today, and my first thought was, well, Jay loves Archie, or Kyle loves Archie stuff. We should put this in. It'll be a fun distraction. It's also 70 freaking pages.
Mary, this is if Archie was written by Jeffrey Dahmer.
Wow.
Am I wrong?
No.
You're not. That's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's Stephen King's bedtime stories.
Right. It puts the lotion on the skin, or otherwise it gets the birds again.
Man. So I didn't read all this one, but I did read that first story. Okay. I mean, this thing was like 77 pages long. So this to me was like taking the really old timey comic and just mixing it with a today horror vibe. It's like when they made the Banana Splits a horror movie, or like the unrated cut of Dukes of Hazzard. It's just taking things that you look at this, and if the bird wasn't on the cover, you'd have no idea what was going on with this book. This looks like any other old timey, what do they call them? Dell books, like the little.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't dislike it, and it might be something that I go back and finish. I will say I don't think this is going to be for everyone, but I would tell you, if you're a horror fan, give it a shot.
To answer some of the questions,
this may be a Harvey homage, but the entire book is this way.
It's like a Whitman homage.
Yeah.
It really does have that Dell Whitman Harvey feel to it, and so much blood. The second story is just as twisted as the first story, by the way, but maybe a little more psychological, whereas the first one's a little more violent. No, Daniel, that's the A. All right. Scarlett Couture, The Munich File.
If you wanted a comic that was just the opening scene from a James Bond movie, no plot, no real story, just a lot of action and people yelling at each other.
Yeah.
You don't know who they are. You don't care who they are. But at the same time, it is kind of interesting and fast paced that you want to come back, go, okay, I like the opening. Now, who the hell are these people? So if you don't mind not getting a single answer other than action, 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 this is a good book for you.
In a world where the book we had last week, Heat Seeker, is supposedly out this week, this is the less good of the two Titan hard case crime books that are out this week. That said, this wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It wasn't all, it was nothing. It was the beginning of a story. It doesn't make you really care about anyone. It doesn't really make you interested in the story. It just sets everything up. Lot of action, which is good if you like action. And there was a thing about this book that I wanted to bring up to you guys, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. Mm-hmm. The art style felt incredibly awkward. Like there were points where it looked like they were using photorealistic backgrounds and hyper cartoony character drawings in the foreground. Like, You know those books that are too digital?
Yeah.
You know, it's like it feels too digital. That's how this felt. Now, I don't think it was wrong. I think it fit the story and the storytelling incredibly well. But it was the first thing I noticed that goes, oh, this is not exactly what I expect from Titan Hardcase books. So that took me a second to get used to. But once I got used to it, I think it really did fit the story well. And I didn't mind it. It's just not, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not what you expect. And it's a little jarring.
Yeah, I got you. That's actually my first note on here. It was almost cartoony with the art. It almost looked like animation cells. Like that's how vivid it is. That's how vivid it was to me, at least. I thought it was really good. It was a really good, operative kind of Charlie's Angels-esque, but not really. And it had some kind of shocking moments. There was one in particular. I was like, that person's gonna get out of the way or whatever. Nope, they didn't. I was like, oh, okay, so we're not even gonna meet this person really. Just gone. Now, I'm gonna level with everybody. This isn't a story that's super original, but to me, at least, it was done very well, and it kept me interested. And I really dug it. I would continue reading this one.
Preston had a question that I think Kyle has a better chance of answering.
Kyle, are you muted?
Yeah, I'm muted. That thing where your health insurance company calls you while you're on the air in the middle of a show and you're like, I've been fighting with them all day. I should probably answer it. And it's just a robocall. Bastards. It is not at all like Ice Cream Man or Silver Coin Dwellings. It is its own thing. I would say it's closer to the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina or something like that, but even more violent. However, if you're into those are more horror books. That Dwellings is more of a, what would you call it? More of just like a murder story, a psychological story.
Yeah.
It's not really a horror comic.
Yeah.
More Hitchcockian.
Yeah. To answer the Netta, what comics are you going to read this week by Marvel? None on this show. Tune into the next show. There will be some Marvel books there. We don't talk about leaks on the show. So we'll deal with that. Let's move on to Sleeping Beauty, the Nightmare Queen. Now, I want to caveat this. Everything I find for this book says it came out July 12th. However, I can find no record anywhere that it actually shipped to be on sale July 12th. So if you go in your local comic shop and you don't see this on the new release rack and you're into it, ask about it because it may have come out last month or it may not be the right, it may, sometimes these things get out of whack. Daniel says, yay, fish people. Jay, do you want to start?
Okay, so, man, look, this was another 75 pager. And where it was
72 pages of content.
Yeah, but they added the covers. I keep forgetting that they do that in the PDFs. But anyway, I skimmed this one naturally. But I will say this. There was some great visuals in this. And, man, the colors to me in this just really popped. I really liked the coloring in this book. That being said, the parts that I did read, this almost feels like it's a 1.5 or like an add-on to an origin story with some of the things that gets talked about at the beginning. But like most times when it comes to this part of the universe, I'm just kind of like, okay, like it wasn't one of those, I just really disliked reading this, but it was like, I'm just not wild on this part of the Grimm universe. But as always, if this is something you're following, you should definitely check this one out. It is very pretty. Very pretty.
This book, this character, it took me a while to figure out what Dave Franchini was trying to do. And it hit me about halfway through this book. He's trying to write Steve Ditko Doctor Strange. He's trying to channel that in the Zenescope universe. And in some places it works, and in others it doesn't. I think the most interesting thing about this book is that it's got three different artists. One does the dream world, one does the waking world, and I don't know what the third artist did. But the dreaming world, which is the best looking part of it, is drawn by Igor Vitorino, who is a normal cover artist for Zenescope. He does a lot of the great looking covers. So it's very rare to see him do the interiors in a book, and you see that he nails these interiors. There's some great looking stuff. And then there was a definite quality drop when you went to the waking world. You know, it was more standard Zenescope type art. Still on the good end of Zenescope art, but night and day from what Igor was doing. This is a very long story. It doesn't feel very unique story-wise. Most of the moments feel played out like we've done them before, but they do try to do the more trippy aspect of the 60s Doctor Strange comics that kind of made it an icon. So I see because originally when I saw this character at first, I equated her to not Nightmare, Night Mask from the New Universe. And her powers are similar to that, but it does have a feel of Doctor Strange when he astral projects and stuff like that. So take that as you will.
72 pages is too many pages of content. Although I have a suggestion for Zenescope. Stop putting out floppy comics. It's actually closer for you to add 28 pages and just call it a 100-page trade paperback or original graphic novel. And then maybe you could figure out some of these weak story points. Right? The extra 28 pages gives you time to tell a story that maybe you're having to leave out to fit it into 72 pages. That would make this make sense. I was very excited to see Sleeping Beauty because it's not one of the same 9 characters we see from Zenescope all the time. It was somebody different. And while that part of this was enjoyable, it felt stilted. It didn't feel like a complete thought. It didn't feel even like a well thought out thought. It was like we're gonna do a Sleeping Beauty story. Okay, I have this is scenes from an Italian restaurant, the comic book. It's 3 different songs, it's 3 different comic books all mashed up and together into one, and they make one through line through it, which is that Billy Joel sings it. Except it was written by Dave Franchini. It just doesn't come together in a way that makes any common sense. And it just is wildly disappointing because they have an opportunity here to really introduce a new character to somebody, to introduce new characters to people, and they're just kind of doing a slapdash job at it. So, all right, let's move on to Vampirella Dracula Rage #1. And I will tell you, as someone who is dealing with rage issues, I felt seen in this book a little bit. I didn't love the book, didn't hate the book. There was some art in here that was just insane. Just drop dead, jaw hanging out open, gorgeous. And that is for me, the saving grace of this book. So for me, while the story was kind of lacking, the action was good and the art was incredible. So overall, solid B.
I'm going to go the other end of the spectrum on this one. I hated this book. And I don't normally come out and just outright hate on Vampirella or stuff like that. But it might be the writer in me. But if I pick up a book by Christopher Priest and I get 22 pages of telling me what's going on in the most annoying discussion. Are you Dracula? There is no Dracula. Are you Dracula? There is no Dracula. Same questions, no answers, no idea what's going on here. And we're supposed to have followed the previous miniseries. And we've read them, and I don't remember half the stuff. But the entire story is told in a conversation between two people. But it's not then taken to and then show what happened. He's still telling. It's all in little snippets and vignettes, and this was one of the worst first issues I've ever read.
And
for a book,
Dan,
yeah.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
If this had been issue 7 of the previous series and come out in, a month following the number 6 of the previous series, do you think it would have read better? I'm not asking you to remember, but
No.
one of the things that I thought about this is Priest is telling a story across multiple miniseries, and that's not how storytelling is done.
No.
That's how a company makes a money grab. By putting out number one after number one after number one. Oh, yeah, Zenoscope. Anyway, by putting out number one after number one after number one all the time because they only do miniseries. And the fact of the matter is, we have no idea what this book is about because it's so long from the last miniseries that you can't remember. Sometimes you have to do an ongoing. So,
I don't know if that would change because it's still just such a badly written book.
Right, but if
I'm not saying the overall story's bad. I'm saying that the way it's presented is just not interesting. It doesn't draw the reader in.
Right.
And
it's a number one that feels like a number 7, like that's just a filler issue.
It just feels like bad writing to me. And it's weird saying that about a Christopher Priest script.
Right.
It feels like he phoned it in.
I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I'm kind of in the middle of the road with this one. I will have to say I like the way that Victory is in this book more than her own miniseries. I wish that's how she was portrayed in her own miniseries. But I also think that, once again, it's just, I only need one Vampirella book. And y'all know what that is. If they only did one Vampirella book, it'd be the one versus superpowers. I don't need any more. Like, everything else that I've read just for me doesn't hold up to that. I don't know what it is, but it's the only one I seem to be able to get into.
23, 21, 24, 27, 30 covers. 31 covers. These series, by the way, are the reason that I believe Dynamite is more concerned with what's on the cover of a book than what's inside of it. However, we immediately followed it up with Gargoyles, which flies right in the face of that statement. So I don't know what I believe anymore.
I will say I'm enjoying this series more than the main series, because the main series just feels like I don't know what's going on. This feels like, okay, I can get into this. I don't need a cheat sheet to figure out who everybody is, even though the characters don't have names. Because back then, Gargoyles didn't have names. Again, Drew Moss is doing a good job of making this looks like it fits in with the main series, which I think is interesting because George Kambatis, who does the main book, has a very unique style, and Drew is making it fit, which I think is nicely done. But it's a fun read. I'm enjoying this one, like I said, more than the main series.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. There are a few nitpicks that I have with it though. I wasn't a fan of the truncated opening that they did, where it didn't make sense to me how it read. It was like, it was a world of fear. It was Gargoyles Dark Ages. That part didn't make sense. Yes, I even read the beginning thing. But not only did that feel off, there was some of the dialogue that was happening. It just felt like that doesn't sound like you should have said that. Especially between the wizard, the bad wizard or whatever. He said some things. I'm like, that doesn't sound right. Like it doesn't sound like a thing that should be said. Other than that, though, I'm kind of with you on that. I was digging the first Gargoyle series up until the point where it felt like Goliath was in prison for like 12 issues and we'd only been in 3 issues. I do like this one a little bit more.
I hated the first issue of this. I thought it was maybe the biggest mistake Dynamite had made with their Disney IP. And then this book kind of redeemed it. I thought this book was a lot better. You're kind of getting that origin story that you knew they were setting up, but didn't feel like they had really landed in the first issue. In this issue, it lands more and starts to make more sense, which I really like. Again, I don't feel like this is written from the same voice. Any of the Gargoyle stuff has been written from the same voice the original show was, even though it's written by the same guy. And that makes the whole thing feel disconnected from the Gargoyles I know and love. But this is a story that I've always wanted, and I think they're going to give it to me in terms of the origin of the Gargoyles, like an actual origin of how the truce came and how the names showed up and that kind of stuff. So super excited to keep reading this book, even if I am a little bit pessimistic about it.
Just a little side note on that. We don't get the names until they're already frozen in time for the 1,000 years and once they wake up. So right. I don't know if they're going to get that far with the book.
Right. But we're walking that direction, which I think is interesting. So in the meantime, remember, hit hashtag EXP2K in the comments to get entered for our slab giveaway. We're giving away a slab at the end of the show. Remember, the only things you have to do to win are put hashtag EXP2K in the comments and be here at the end of the show to get the information to fill out the form. And you have 24 hours to fill out the form. Otherwise, I'm giving your slab to somebody else. Actually, it'll just rotate to the next show, but that's like inside baseball we don't need. So, Dan.
Yes?
What are we doing the rest of the week on the Dan Wickline show?
Well, we are going to, it depends on what I get to do tonight. If either tomorrow or the next day, we're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, now that it's available. And then, depending on, I may pick up on the Jack of Hearts pitch, get back into that.
Sounds good.
Those two will flip-flop depending on what I get a chance to watch tonight. I may be playing Warhammer tonight, so.
I thought you were going to tell me you were going to watch a Super Mario movie now that it's available.
No. By the way, did you know that the word "supa" it's a me,
I saw
Mark.
this TikTok.
Yeah.
No, tell everybody. Jay doesn't know.
See if I get it right. The word for super in Japanese is itsa. So itsa or itsa.
The word is
Itsumi. Itsumi is super. So Itsumi Mario is him saying Super Mario. That's what the TikTok says. I haven't been able to verify.
I don't do TikTok, so I never saw that. So
Yeah, I saw that TikTok too. I think you may have even. Did I send you that TikTok, or you send me that TikTok?
I don't send you TikTok, so
Somebody sent me
it was
that
sent. So
anyway, Jay, what's happening on the Triangle of Truth?
hopefully we're gonna have some. We got a lot of Kickstarter stuff coming in. Hopefully we have some unboxing done because we're fixing to leave to West Virginia for a week, and then we're gonna be in West Virginia for about 2 days. Then we're gonna drive down to North Carolina to see my family that lives up there. So hopefully we can have something. We haven't had anything for about a week now.
Monday on the Devil's Advocate show, we are talking about are comic book movies good for comic books? Anyone who's ever watched me appear on Dan's show to talk about a comic book movie knows my answer to that question. But tune in to Devil's Advocates to hear that answer. All right. Killer Queens #2, putting the sass in assassination. It's Killer Queens Volume 2, #1.
Yes.
whenever I read this book, I hear Queen in my head. Killer
That's the
Queen. And it's just, I don't know. It's good art. The story's kind of weird. You know, it's trying to be a sci-fi comedy action thing. I don't have anything bad to say about it, but I don't have anything great to say about it either. It's kind of a meh book, you know.
Never read the first volume, but it is David M. Booher, and that's the only DMB that matters in my book. I'm a huge Kanto fan. Love Kanto. Now, while I didn't like this as much as I like Kanto, I did like it. The art was very interesting. And again, just like with the Zenoscope book, the colors in this just pop for me. Like I don't know who's doing I don't know who's doing the coloring on this, but coloring is fantastic on this. I found the story fun, although a little absurd. But it's space assassins, a talking monkey, and a prince with wings. So I mean, if you're gonna go and read this, I definitely wouldn't take anything too seriously.
Yeah, this is a big gay space romp. That was the pitch for Volume 1, and it's certainly the pitch for Volume 2. If you read Volume 1, Volume 2 is going to make a lot more sense. This continues the story where we left off in Volume 1. It seems like there's been a little bit of a time passage, but you don't know exactly how long. And so if you dug Volume 1 and the Henshotters, this one has bear bounty hunters. If you like animals doing people things, a lot of butts and butt stuff jokes, tramp stamps. This book is for you, man.
By the way, bears showing up at a pride festival. Classic.
Yeah. I did enjoy Volume 1, John. I didn't enjoy this as much as I enjoyed the issues in Volume 1. But I think part of the appeal of Volume 1 for me was the absurdity of a concept that I'd never seen before. And now that this is something that I'm accustomed to, it feels a little less fresh, a little less interesting. But I don't think that takes away from the story. Like, I would equate this to when a show goes off the air on one network and then comes back later on another network. It feels kind of the same way. It's the same show, it's the same story, but it just got a little bit of a different flavor. So, all right, let's go to Mech Cadets. So, did anybody read Mech Cadet U? Okay. That was the prequel.
Okay.
If you want Voltron added in with teen angst and daddy issues, you have Mech Cadets.
Yeah. I was gonna say it's Juno meets Rom Space Knight.
Coming to Netflix soon.
Yes.
And while reading this, I thought to myself, this will make an interesting anime. I thought it was a cool story. A little on the tropey side, but I mean, what story nowadays doesn't have a little bit of tropiness to it? But you know, it's mech suits and aliens. So for me, what's not to like about it? I'll admit, wasn't the biggest fan of the art at first, but the more I read, it's kind of one of those. The more I read the story, the more the art kind of fit with it. Unfortunately, I think I might be more excited to watch the Netflix show than to continue reading the books. But that's all I got on this one. I thought it was good.
So, the first volume of this was not from Mech Cadet U, which is the first book in this universe. I said it was a prequel. I don't know that it's an actual prequel, but it's the first book in this universe. Was not my jam. It felt a little bit like it was trying to be an all ages manga disguised as a comic book. Which isn't a bad thing. It's just not something I was looking for at the time. Reading this now, if you're into Voltron, if you're into, Rom Space Knight, something like that, you're in a good spot. But it isn't for me. It's a weird, kind of a weird world. I think, some of my friends who have teenagers, this might be a good book to put in the hands of the teenagers. Dan, do you have anything else to say? All right, Godzilla, Here There Be Dragons. Real quick before we start. Canadian Survivalist, if you want to know what we're thinking, we covered that book very first in the show. So if you want to circle around on the rewatch, we talk about it there. Go ahead, Dan.
I like this book for the most part. I think the art's cool. I think the story's interesting. And I would be really enjoying it if there was actually a dragon. This doesn't feel like a Godzilla book. And I realize it's the whole idea, hey, we're going to do Godzilla in the pirate days. But I think this would be a better book if it was just told with a frickin' pirate or with a frickin' dragon. I like the art. I like the story. I like the the way it's being told, I mean, it clicks, it checks a lot of boxes for me, but just then they throw Godzilla in there, and it's like, kind of takes you out of the story. So I think it's worth checking out. But like I said, when I watch or when I read it, now I'm just picturing a big black dragon instead of Godzilla.
Yeah, I think this book is only Godzilla based on the premise that pirates wouldn't know that Godzilla isn't a dragon. Like, that's the conceit of this book.
Yeah.
And we all know how Kyle feels about the Godzillas.
Mm-hmm.
At least there's a Godzilla in this one, instead of all these other Godzilla books that IDW does where there's no freaking Godzilla. That said, there's a scene in this book where Godzilla is Godzilla-ing an entire armada. And if I can own the original art page, that is like exactly my jam. The interior art is, I don't think it's fully painted. I think it's sort of a mixed medium pen and ink and watercolor. Kind of a mixed medium. But it's hard to tell when you're reading it on a PDF, Steve. I'll be real honest. It's the interior art is what keeps me reading this book. I agree with Dan though. It could just be here there be dragons and it's just a generic dragon.
Yeah. I like the art, and I do like the story. I do, but again, it's kind of one of those. I got to agree. It'd be better with a dragon. Take Godzilla off the title. Make it a dragon. Now, that being said, though, the panels that do have Godzilla in it, they're awesome. That Armada scene, with beautiful blue flame, it looks amazing. I really love that page. But also, there's not enough, for me personally, there's not enough Godzilla in it. But we are being told a story. So I think the most interesting part of this book for me is the fact that it's not the future, it's not the present, it's not the 1940s. It's way back in Pirate Age. I think that was an interesting place to drop this because back then there was the tales of all the sea monsters, the sea serpents and things like that. So I thought it's an interesting place to have it, but I also think they could have just used a dragon.
All right. So did either of you guys go through the Michael Golden's Marvel stories?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I know that you had said we were just going to look at it for fun, but I didn't know.
I downloaded it. I didn't look at it yet.
All right. So this is from IDW. This is the artist edition of Michael Golden's Marvel stories. So this book is, I think, technically 12 by 18 or maybe even a little bigger than that.
Yeah, it's the big $100 books.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about a book that's bigger than this size.
Yeah.
Right. This is an original
they
art
shoot
page.
the actual pages.
Right.
So they're 11 by 17.
And but there are still bleeds and stuff. So this book is actually huge.
Yeah.
And in it are Doctor Strange number 55, Marvel Fanfare 47, the Marvel Holiday Special from 1992, Strange Tales number 1 from 1985, Strange Tales number 4 from 1985, and Avengers Annual 10 from 1963. No, that's wrong. What year did that come out? That would have been 1973.
Avengers Annual number 10?
Yeah.
Would have been later than that. That was the introduction of Rogue.
Yeah. So no, that's true. Huh. Okay.
Probably
they've got the year listed wrong on the website I'm using to look at this.
I think it's 1980.
Yeah. That seems about right. Early 80s. But it's literally just high resolution scans of Michael Golden's original art. So if you like original art like I do, and like so many of us do, this is a great way to get pages that you're probably never going to be able to own. Just because they exist on a level of cost that most of us will probably never attain.
Yeah.
So, really fun look at classic Michael Golden art. And it's a good time. It's a fun little 150 page flip through.
Michael Golden's art and Michael Golden himself mean a lot to me. So I loved this.
Yes.
Michael's art was one of the first artists to stand out to me when I was 8, 9, 10 years old. I remember getting Avengers Annual number 10 and being blown away by the art compared to, Al Milgrom and all these other guys that were drawing the Avengers at the time. And then it was the first time I ever connected, oh, that's the same artist who did the cover of the She-Hulk with Man-Thing on it. And that is kind of when my mind opened up to the fact that there were creators behind this. That and meeting Jack Kirby were the things that kind of changed my whole view of the comic industry. But years later, I got to go to a convention, meet Michael, and ended up having dinner with him and Tone Rodriguez and Michael's agent, Renee Wittestatter. And we've become friends since then. I probably had a bunch of meals with him, one of which he spent the entire meal trying to convince me that chocolate on Mexican food actually tastes good, which I have a hard time with the concept. And we had an entire discussion about Jimi Hendrix while sitting at a Thai restaurant in LA, while ignoring everybody else at the table, while Woodstock was being shown on the big screen next to the table. So Michael is amazing to me. His art is phenomenal. There's some great pages in here. There's some pinups he's done. There's a lot of pages from the Nam, from the Doctor Strange book he did. Again, Avengers Annual number 10. But there's a section of just covers and pinups. And you ask any comic artist out there, Michael Golden is one of their idols.
Yeah, and I also want to point out too, a lot of the inks in this book are Armando. I'm going to forget his name. Armando Gill.
Yeah.
Who I think, other than Jeff Isherwood, is maybe the best inker when paired with Michael Golden that he worked with. Like, they just work so well together. Jeff Isherwood too. Like,
Yeah.
I had to check. I have the Nam page here that's waiting to be framed. And it's not a Michael Golden page, which is disappointing. All right. So, you've been canceled number 3.
Hey, that's our show.
Oh. Boo.
And those of you talking, we'll address everything in the comments here in just a minute, guys.
Yeah.
Once we wrap up our reviews here. You've been canceled number 3.
I haven't liked this book from the beginning. This one was a little bit better, but it's still not my cup of tea. So I don't want to say too much about it. I'll let you guys run with it.
Okay. So I am back to digging this one. The second one wasn't as good as the first issue to me, but I really liked the backstory as to why the person who hacked the system hacked it. I caught the Easter egg of names that have been canceled. I thought that was kind of cool. This book now to me is more than just about violence, although it still has plenty of that. Like, if that's what you like the book for, folks, it still has that in there. But now it's about corruption. To me, at least, these are my feelings on it. About corruption and the elite controlling the system. It also shows that even though our main character Roland has done terrible things in the past, he can still choose to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I really dig it, and I think this book really picks up with this issue.
I agree with everything Jay just said. The thing for me that this book did is the first two issues, it had felt kind of like a heavy-handed talk of cancel culture, of this, idea that when someone is canceled, they have to go away, right, and be legit gone, which is why they kill these people in this book. This issue really turned it on its head and really started making you think about, yes, this is still kind of about cancel culture in a way, but it's about who is making the decision about who is canceled. Who is making the decision about who's good and who's bad. And if you don't know who's making that decision, can you really make an honest assessment of is someone worthy of being canceled or not? And so this book, takes the twist we discovered at the end of issue 2 and keeps twisting, as it were, and really sort of results in a good kind of closure element for the twist. So now we can move on from not knowing exactly what's happening to we know what's happening and how do we get out of it. So in the end, I think this was a good issue. I think this series is one that it has the potential to wind up being really good, but also has the potential to be awkward or bad even. So let's do this. Let's real quick. So there's been a lot of talk. That's all of our books for this week. We got a few minutes. This is your last chance to put in hashtag EXP2K in the comments if you're just joining us, to be entered for the giveaway, so that you can win our slab. But I want to take a minute and address why we're ending this show and kind of tell you guys all what kind of to look forward to or what we're looking at going forward. As the executive producer of the experience, it really does at the end of the day fall to me to make these decisions. So it didn't come lightly. We didn't decide to stop doing this show because we don't like doing the show. I think we all like doing this show together. But with the way the experience is moving towards the future, with really having a bunch of very tight, high production value, really well put together shows, uploadable premieres and uploads on YouTube, as well as our live programming. Jay, myself, JD, Dan, who does our social media, and so much else for the experience. Like, Dan does stuff for the experience that you all don't know beyond just crocheting us all winter hats for when it gets cold. But we're all, kind of diversifying our work portfolios, which means the 3 to 5 hours a week we spend reading. I don't know if you guys spend that much more time or less time. I don't know how long it takes you guys. It takes me on average 3 to 5 hours to read everything we have to read on a given week. Is time we're going to spend bringing you more content, different content, more interesting content, in our opinion. And at the same time, Jay and I will still be continuing to do comic reviews as part of Minute to Skim It, which we're joining up with Jen King to do Minute to Skim It, which is immediately following this show over on here on the Experience. But even that show is changing starting next week, where we will be live on the Space Cadets page. So Space Cadets Collection, Houston, Texas, will be live there on Tuesday night at 7. And then it will be debuting on the Experience YouTube channel at midnight Eastern. So you can watch it Wednesday morning before you go into your local comic shop to know what to pick up. Is there anything else you guys want to add? Anything else you guys want to say?
One of the reasons that I'm not going over the Minute to Skim It with them is, as much as I love doing the show with Kyle and Jay, the interaction, it was never my desire to review comics. As a writer, it's always felt a little wrong to me And it's how I got pulled into the experience. Nick called me up one night, said, I'm doing my show. Why don't you be on with me tonight? And next thing you know, I was co-hosting with Kyle.
It's true. Dan did kind of get shanghaied into this.
Yeah, I got shanghaied. So this is all. Whenever Kyle's talked about me cutting back a little my on-air time, this has always been the place. And it again has nothing to do with who I'm working with. It's the fact that I just, being a writer and knowing the hard work that goes into it, I feel bad coming out and complaining about a book someone put all that effort into. You know, it just doesn't sit right with me. So, you know, I may still pop up occasionally on a Minute to Skim It if I got a book that I absolutely love that I want to talk about.
Yeah, or there's a week one of us can't be there. Like, that show is going to have an open door policy. You're going to see Sean. You're going to see Dan. You're going to see Bronze Age Nerd. A lot of people are going to pop in and out on that show going forward. But Dan has been. This has been on Dan's heart for a long time, and so to be able to do this is good for everyone. So we appreciate you guys all being here. We appreciate the love you have for the show. We wouldn't do it if it wasn't for you guys. And again, we're doing it in a big way to help position the experience to be around for a very, very long time, to keep making great content for everyone. So now that we've done the sappy part, let's do the giveaway part. Here we go. 36 of you are in the draw. Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Who's going to win? Who's going to... Clayton.
Congratulations, Clayton.
All right, Clayton. Congratulations on winning. There is a link in the comments that you should follow and fill out in the next 24 hours to claim your book. And we will show you right now what your book is. You just won Stranger Things #1 in a 9/8.
Nice.
Yeah, this is... I forget who did this cover, but this is one of my favorite Stranger Things covers. So
Lambert variant?
Yeah. Yes, that's right. Lambert. Congratulations to Clayton. Make sure you fill out the form to claim your book, and we will get that shipped out to you. So for the last time on this show, comicshoplocator.com. Head over to comicshoplocator.com. Find a comic shop nearby to you where you can visit and pick up great books. Comicshoplocator.com. We will see everybody on the next show, Minute to Skim It.
I got through an entire episode without insulting Kyle. Of course, it's the last one.
Well, then you should make fun of my bald spot or something. Let's go. We'll see everybody next time.